Pensado's Place is brought to you by Vintage King, the Blackbird Academy, Avid, Isotope, Recording Connection, Studio 202, The Slate Companies, and Audio Technica.
For all of you Into the Lair junkies, this show's for you. Dave P. dives really deep. It's ITL heaven. We're about a week away from the Pensado Capital Jam. Folks are stepping up big time. We will share that stuff. Tons of excitement in the house. Let's get it popping. You're at the place. It's Pensado's Place.
Yay. Man, everything Herb just said goes triple for me. I'm really excited about DC. I don't know why.
Everybody on the team is.
It's like, I've been to DC before. Uh-huh. I've seen the people on the panel before.
But
I've never seen them in DC, so I'm, yay, let's go to DC.
You know, Chalmers started walking yesterday.
Oh.
So he should get there about a week after it's done.
I'm really excited about it. You might have to edit this, but I think this could be our best panel ever.
It's a monster panel, and you know what's really cool and really cool for our audience is that they said yes, first call, first request, every one of them.
Every one of them.
Every one of them did.
Yeah.
Just an amazing gift for our audience. That's the appropriate response, actually. Should we get to the information?
Yeah.
Hey, folks, hope your week in audio was productive and prosperous. It's always a pleasure for us to be with you.
Yeah.
Likes and subscribes. Thanks for pumping gas into our tank. It's most appreciated. Our amazing partners, the Blackbird Academy, Audio Technica, Vintage King, Studio 202, Isotope, Avid, and Recording Connection, all doing big things, big stuff. As we've been talking about, you can tell we're excited. The Pensado Capital Jam is right around the corner. We want to see you there. Saturday, April 18th. Doors open at 11 a.m., program from 12 to 2 at the beautiful Howard Theater. Really incredible. Some seats are left, but get cracking. Do not delay. Dave was talking about the panel. How about this? Ann Mincielli, incredible. DJ Ali on one of the hottest records in the world, Kendrick Lamar. Gavin Lurson, Mastering God. Young Guru, Michael Brower, Kook Harrell, Noah 40 should be literally a certified genius. All amazing talents, all eager to share. I'm not even sure we should show up.
Oh, we're going?
We'll just go and sit in the audience.
I want to be in the audience.
Okay, cool.
You got this one, man.
Cool. Lord have mercy, it's just an incredible thing. Now, it wouldn't be Pensadian if we didn't have more than that. So you may win hardware, you may win software, you may get merchandising, there's reference materials. A couple of lucky people are going to get internships from Studio 202. How about this? I got a call yesterday from the Office of the President of Berkeley University. They're going to give away 2 online scholarships. These are for specialist certifications and in a course of your choice. That'll be great for your resume.
Yeah.
You better believe that's awesome of them.
Thanks to them.
Well, big time. That's not all. G-Tech stepping up with storage stuff that you can win. Isotope, Avid, Audio Technica, Hal Leonard, Eosis. Everybody's coming to the table for you. Yeah, we know them. Yeah, they love us, but they're coming because of you, so you support them. We're going to have trainers available, so when you leave Capital Jam, if you have questions about the gear you won, you'll have some place that you can go get that information from.
That's incredible.
We're going to show you some areas of audio that may be opportunities for you. Lots of music, lots of social media. We like to have a good time. We call that edutainment. So come on and get edutained. Would recommend this. Don't delay. Do not delay. It's filling up very fast.
Very limited.
And finally, a special offer from Dave and I for those who can't follow their audio passion because of life's challenges. We don't care what the challenges are. We've had them, we had to surmount them, and you have them. We want to jumpstart you. So Dave and I, and Audio Technica, and Avid, and Isotope, and G-Tech are going to provide portable recording studios. There will be 4 winners of those. Here's how this works. First, it's the honor system. If you're already functional, this is not for you. As a family, we want to help those who aren't and can't. So here's what you do. You send a quick paragraph, describe your passion and circumstance to info@pensadosplace.tv. It is confidential. Only Dave and I will see those, and that's how Dave and I will select the winners. Mm-hmm. So hurry, please.
Yeah.
Then, here's the other part. You have to attend to win. You must attend to win so we can actually give it to you. So for those folks, then you have to sign up. So for the Pensado Jumpstarter Kits, quick paragraph to info@pensadosplace.tv, tell us circumstance and passion. Then you also register at pensadosplace.tv, capital Jam. Be there. We want to meet you. Ladies, you know we're calling you. Yeah. Schools, come on. It's going to absolutely rock. And now, my partner, you know him, the Master Blaster, the Master Teacher in the Universe. He's been toiling about putting this show together. So got a couple of good things for you ITL junkies, a 30-minute dive into vocal effects and what you can do with that. Plus, part 2 of last week's ITL on drums with Erik and Dave. Enjoy. We'll see you in DC. Mwah. That's a good one.
All right, hey guys, Cole Nystrom here, over with at the Echo Bar with Erik Reichers. Erik, thank you so much for having us, man.
Man, my pleasure.
Great to be back here. We've loved the room so much, man. It's such a pleasure to be back with you guys.
Love having you guys over here. It's great.
Cool. So this week we are going to talk about replacing some samples that we ended up recording. So we're trying to use those to make it sound more organic, more natural. What's your thought, Brian?
Yeah, more natural. You can use samples any way you want to augment and manipulate a sound to turn it into anything that you want. The creativity can go anywhere you want with it. This particular technique is utilizing samples that you created that we created on the day that we recorded our project. So you're using the same drum kit, the same drummer, the same microphones, the same preamps, EQs, whatever outboard gear you used while you were tracking. You use that same setup, exactly the same setup, to make your samples. And what you can do with that, of course, is layer those samples back in on top of your recording. And when you do that a certain way, you can keep the naturalness, if that's a word. You can keep it natural, sounding more natural than more of a manipulated, effect type drum scenario.
Yeah, so keeping the tone while you change some of the blends in it, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so.
Awesome, man. Well, why don't we dive right on into it?
Great, let's do it. All right, so let's take a listen to what we recorded last week. All right, I thought that sounded pretty good, but what I noticed immediately after that first tom fill was that the ride cymbal got really loud. What's happening there is the ride is bleeding into the tom mic, so let's take a listen to that. I'm going to play it for you, and then I'm going to mute the 2 tom mics, and you're going to hear that ride disappear. We got a lot of bleed coming through those mics, so let's check it out. Pretty obvious. Pretty easy to hear that when I muted the tom mics, how drastically the ride cymbal ducked down in the mix. And I like the level that the toms came in at, but that ride is too loud. So one of the things that you can do is when you record your own drums and you record the samples like we did, what you've got are the exact same drum through all the exact same equipment that you use to record with, and now you can take those samples and blend them in with the live microphones. And you can do that using several different types of software programs. In this case, I'm going to use Slate Trigger. I know there's a bunch of other programs out there as well, Massey DRT, and you can always put things in by hand too. It takes a little longer, but you can definitely get things synced up just the way you want. Something that's important to keep in mind here is when you're blending these sounds in, you might think, well, why don't I just mute the live microphones and just use the samples. And that isn't necessarily what you always want if you want to keep things natural. One thing that keeps the drum sounding natural is having some of that bleed, but in this case the bleed is too much of that ride mic. So we're not going to mute them completely, we're just going to pull them down, and then we're going to put our samples in on top of it, and you'll see it still has a nice natural sound to it. So I've pulled the faders down for the live mics, and you'll see I've unmuted my sample tracks. Now let's play it again and see what kind of blend we have. Pretty good. It's the exact same drum, exact same gear you recorded it through, but it sounds really natural, and that's a technique you can do with all the drums, the snare drum, the kick drum, and you can get pretty detailed and intricate with it. Just depends on how far you want to go. So by using the samples that you created, that's the samples of the same drums, what you're effectively doing to keep things sounding natural is you can think of it like changing a ratio of the direct sound of the drum that you captured versus the bleed that's coming through that microphone. I don't necessarily like to think of replacing drums when I'm doing this technique. I like to think of it more like I'm changing that ratio. So I'm getting a lot more of the close mic of the drum and just pulling that bleed down. So I'm just changing the ratio quite a bit. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope that helps you in your mixing. That's one way to circumvent things that are bleeding through your other mics quite a bit. If you don't, you might not always have that luxury of having the samples that you that came with the track that you recorded. But if you're the one engineering it, I highly recommend that you take samples of your drums at the end of the recording session and use those. They'll help you a lot in your mix if you're really looking to keep your drums sounding natural. All right, see you next time.
Sometimes when I'm doing ITLs for you guys, I wish I had a little more time. I wish I could go a little deeper. But unfortunately, some of you guys have a rather short attention span. And the reason I know that is because I do too sometimes when I get on the internet. And if I say sometimes one more time, Cole will come up and kick me in the butt, which he enjoys doing sometimes. So today, we're not gonna break really new territory in terms of some of the things I'm showing you. We're just gonna go a little deeper into why I do them, because I want you to get a feel for the process of using different techniques and effects and things on vocals and why I would choose them. Now, I'm not the final authority on any of this. These are just my opinions, and I encourage you to do like I do and go cruise around the internet. Learn how to Google the things you want. It's not just type in reverb, but you might type in how to use reverb on vocals, or different types of reverbs, or how to use pre-delay. What does early reflection mean? Learn all the intricacies of what reverb's trying to emulate. I gave this information to you in a 5-minute segment. This is going to be a 30-minute segment. Hopefully one day we'll do a 2-day segment. But once again, it's not so important what I'm doing or any engineer is doing, but how that relates to your sensibilities and your tastes, and how can you take those concepts and apply them through your sensibilities. It's not a bad thing to start off by copying me, but don't let that be the end result. So we're going to look at this Jill Scott song, and here's a vocal. This is just a chance for me to show off right here. It has no practical value to you. Here's a vocal that before I did anything to it, got a little compressor on it, but that's not going to affect it. So you know what? So this B3 is my Shadow Hills. I get them confused. Is mine a Van de Graaff or an Optograph? It's my Shadow Hills Optograph, a beast of a little computer, a little compressor.
What I like about you, you make me smile when I don't want to.
Brian Peterson, our videographer, is laughing over there. Guys, you're just in my home hanging out, my little studio, so it's just going to be loose. Get ready for it. Now, Jill's amazing. Now here comes the show-off part. This is with everything on it.
What I like about you, you make me smile when I don't want to.
I ain't gonna lie, that just makes me happy when I hear that. Ooh. Let's break it down. Now, we've gone over various of these elements over here. I'm taking out a little tiny bit of the harshness, which never exists on Jill's voice, but just a way to make it sit in the mix. This is a side chain where I'm taking out the 250. I've shown you this plug-in a million times. Here's a new little guy. This is from P&M. What does P&M stand for, Cole? Plug-in mix. They make about 2 million plug-ins, and I think they're about a nickel a piece. They're really great stuff. Really, really good stuff. It's surprising. This company and Melda Productions both have some very affordable, very usable plugins. Then this is our old buddy. I use this on all my vocals. The UAD version came out after I did this song, and then anything the boys over at Fab Filter make, buy it. A little bit of de-essing. And I have no clue why I chose this LA3A. Let me see what it's doing.
What I like about you.
Okay, so it's just kind of giving a little smoothness to when she changes tone and goes for those higher notes. I didn't even realize I did that. That's kind of cool. Now, I've shown you this guy. This is just an 1176 Blue Stripe going into compressor, and I'm paralleling into that. That gives me that has a way of keeping certain elements of the mix of her vocal in my face. Now, this Nectar plugin, I'm paralleling into that too. I showed you how I use that, but we're going to look at this a little bit more in depth. This guy here is I showed you this recently. I'm just adding a little warmth and roundness. I can't believe I said warmth. A little roundness to the bottom of the vocal. And what else we got? Reverb, my Bricasti, and a little slap. Now, I want to show you, let's start with slap. So let's leave all these. I'm gonna have to turn Nectar off because you know what? I don't have to do that. Let me turn the reverb off. Nectar, I'm gonna turn off a couple of the modules. I'm using the reverb module, the delay module, and let me see here. I'm using the reverb module, the delay module, and the effects. Now we're going to come back and look at these in depth because you don't have to use them inside of a plug-in. I just want you to see that I'm using them. So now we're off. So now let's see what we got.
What I like about you.
Now on the slap, I'm using this old Telray. Now it's not so important what I'm using, it's just the concept. Now, what I've done here is left and right are a little different. So the concept here is to try and make your left side and your right side a little different. I like to keep my slaps somewhere between 80 and 120. But experiment. That's the fun of doing this stuff. That's why you have your own place, is to just have fun. So here's with it.
What I like about you.
Without it.
What I like about you.
Let's exaggerate it.
What I like about you.
Now, I'm on my template. I'm ready to go with several things. I like this. This is a little echo boy thing.
What I like about you. What I like about you.
Gives us a little bit of a different sound, a little tighter. Check this out. This is a very affordable plugin by Stephen Massey. It's got a lot of really great things. This vintage button.
What I like about you. What I like about you.
It's a little more subtle than the rest. Let's try something with it while we're here. Let's try. Let's see. Let's try increasing the delay time on one side.
What I like about you.
It opened up a little bit.
What I like about you.
Now let's go longer on the other side.
What I like about you.
So we're getting what I would call a delay. So at this point in time, we might want to try let's see what happens here.
What I like about you.
You know what? If you add a little bit of reverb to that, it would really smooth it out.
What I like about you. What I like
Okay. Dumb mistake number one. I went to bus 7 and 8 instead of output 7 and 8, which seems to be. Okay, here we go. Let me find one that's working.
What I like about you.
Ooh, that's sweet.
What I like about you.
Now, I probably wouldn't use the same reverb I'm using on her vocal, which in this case I am for the sake of illustrating it. But what would happen? What would happen instead of using my reverb on that particular delay? What if I sent it to my nectar? I guess we'd have to add some stuff back on to the poor little nectar guy. We got him crippled. Got to keep your plugins happy, fellas and ladies.
What I like about you. You.
Oh man, I think that's money right there. So don't be afraid to add effects to your effects. Now, moving on with our slap. The reason I'm spending time on this is because I think it's a very useful technique that I use on every vocal. All right, this is my friend Manolo, known in America as Manny.
What I like about you. You make
Let's see, what have I done here?
what I like about you. You make me smile when I don't want to.
This is pretty sweet, guys. Manny is really, all his plugins are just very musical. This one, I'm gonna turn it up just so you can see a couple of things.
What I like about you. You make me smile. What I like about you. What I like about.
So we've got all these things. This is my favorite one to add.
What I like about you. What I like about you.
Okay,
What I like about you. You.
now, we've been mangling it up a little bit.
What I like about you.
Now let's put it in the mix.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't want to. You always know what to say.
Now that's pretty doggone sweet, guys. The only thing that can make that a little different, let's don't use the word better, is if we added a delay after that. So let's say we added the tail ray after that.
What I like about you.
Let's back down the mixes.
What I like about you.
So in terms of slap, what we're trying to do is trying to widen the vocal a little bit, but not to where we hear it. We just want it to find a spot where it sits in the mix and gives us a sense that the singer is, it adds a little small continuity to the note, so it affects our timing. We can control that in a positive musical way. It adds a little bit of width. Sometimes I won't run a slap that wide. Sometimes I'll run it like that. To me, that would be a little too noticeable with the extra delay on it.
What I like about you.
That's probably where I would run it. Let's see what it sounds like in the mix.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't want to. You always know what to say
Without
to
it.
me. You make me remember to play.
So you see, it gets absorbed in the mix a little bit, and so experiment with, I've done this a lot, so I kind of hear what it sounds like in the mix, but it might be better for you to try, if you're just starting out and learning some of these techniques, it might be a little better for you to make these adjustments inside the mix. Now remember, the techniques that I've shown you about slap, you can use these on a lot of different things. It can be used on guitars, it can be used on synthesizers, and you've got a little more leeway on those kinds of instruments, pianos, electric pianos. I'm hearing some of these things creep into different forms of music like EDM. Let's talk a little bit now about reverbs, or reverb if you're European. And what are we trying to accomplish with the reverb? Well, we want to give the sense of of wideness and bigness and dimension. Now, when I say dimension, there's front to rear dimensions, the depth into the mix or behind certain instruments that the reverb creates, certain widths. Now, there's the width you get from putting an emulation of a real space onto a vocal is different than the width you get with a slap. If you go back and think about our slap, it's two-dimensional, so it can give us width, but it can't give us depth. So let's see how we can use different types of reverbs. Now, for me, I break reverbs down into plate, room, hall, chamber, spring, non-lin. That's about it. And then I'm gonna kind of give you a little head start on why I use them and when I use them. So let's start with a hall. Here's without it.
What I like about you.
Man, that lady can sing. Here's with it. This is just a hall, basic standard hall.
What I like about you.
Without it.
What I like.
That's all you need to hear. Phew, man, just for speed and execution, so that I can get a lot more in. I'm using my Bricasti because I've got access to edit the tools and stuff. It's my favorite reverb. You can get really good stuff with plugins, and I do all the time. There's some great plugins that you can use to get these same reverbs. Now, the hall I just showed you. I don't know if anybody cares, but when I first started engineering, I just assumed it was like a hallway in some building, like a 5-foot wide, 10-foot high hallway. But actually what they're trying to emulate is like big concert halls, famous concert halls. So they can give you a sense of depth that you might get in a concert hall. You got to be a little careful with them because they can also make the singer sound a little far back. And one of the techniques that I use to create width without getting excessive depth is by using pre-delay. So I can determine that space between the time you hear the vocal and the time the reverb starts. That's the pre-delay. And what we're trying to accomplish, I think of it, and other engineers think of it differently. Check their opinions out because everything's valuable. I think of it as kind of tucking the beginning of the reverb behind a beat. So I try to use 32nds, 64ths, eighths. Every once in a while I'll go a quarter, like say on a ballad Mariah Carey type vocal performance. I'll go a quarter note pre-delay. Let's see what I've got here. I've got a real short pre-delay. I use this program called Music Math. Showed you that a while back. What did we say, Cole? 55? 56. So let's try 56, which is somewhere around a 16th. So check this pre-delay.
What I like about you.
Okay, so let's try a longer one that's still musical, so you can kind of see what happens.
What I like about you.
In the mix.
What I like about you.
It works great on the long notes, and it gives us that sense that she's up front in the mix, but when the reverb comes in, it sounds a little annoying. So let's half that. I bet this is going to be kind of cool.
What I like about you.
Still a little long, so we were right the first time, somewhere in the 50s.
What I like about you.
I think that's great. Let's take it off now. I'm gonna take it off midway so it'll shock you.
What I like about you.
You see, we got the width without too much depth. We can control that front to rear in a number of ways. You can control it by early reflections. Now I'm gonna real quickly show you. This is gonna be a little harder to hear. So right now I'm gonna put her back in the room.
What I like about you.
Okay, Dave. Mistake number 54.
What I like about you.
Now let's take her to the front of the room.
What I like about you.
Okay, now I'm going to go from the front to the back of the room. And all I'm doing is adjusting the relationship between the early reflections and the reverb time. I'm going to do it as we go through this particular section. So listen carefully to how it makes you feel.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't want to.
So the ratio is altering our perception. Let's listen to that in the mix. I think it's important. Now I'm going to go backwards. Bring her to the front.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't want to.
Okay, backwards.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't.
Now, obviously, there's a difference in the volume of the reverb and the volume of the early reflections, but that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Let me show you. I'm gonna go through these kind of quick. Here's a chamber that I like, which is very similar to what we get with them. Oh, by the way, on the halls, I like those on guitars, and I like those on strings and pianos a lot. On the guitar, it doesn't tend to work good because if you want the guitar in your face, if you've got a guitar part, like say maybe an acoustic part that you want to set behind the main parts, it's good for that on instruments. Now here's the chamber. I might have to adjust a couple of things. Let's see what we got.
What I like about you.
Now you notice immediately we get the width and the dimension without all of the depth. Let me just put it in the mix for you.
What I like about you.
Now to me, I like this better than the hall for this particular song because Jill has a way of drawing you in, and I feel more intimate. I feel like I'm in at the first one, I feel like I'm in the back row of a big concert hall. Now, watching her, now I feel like I'm in the front row of a small, smoky, little jazz-filled little jazz room. So check this out.
What I like about you.
Without it.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't want to.
Oh my gosh, I gotta hear that. I gotta hear that with everything going. That's just too good. I just hope that's what I use on the record, right, Cole? That sounds so good. Okay. And with my slap, wherever the heck that last slap was, let's dial that back a little bit.
What I like about you. You make me smile when I don't.
I got goosebumps. And I've only heard that song 8 million times. So now a room works good kind of the opposite way a hall does. I think it's great for guitars spectacular on drums. If you want to, with a room and you adjust it, you can make it feel like it was recorded at Blackbird Studios. You can make it, by the way, which has the best chambers and rooms around, some of the best. Now, a plate reverb seems to confuse a lot of us, and I say us, and a lot of people I respect that probably use plate reverbs a little better than me will give you a different opinion. But I like a plate because it can, think of it like a slap. A plate gives me width, but it doesn't give me depth. So you have to be careful about your decay times and stuff because it can create a weird sense of depth. Now because a plate is a stretched piece of stainless steel, it can give you a splat really quick. So that splat tends to work on vocal performances that have a lot of like things like that, and on guitars, great for snares. In fact, you can make a snare sound like a gunshot. I'm gonna turn off some of this other stuff real quick and give you a quick taste of the snare. I mean, of the vocal through a plate. So let's take this off. By the way, this version of Nectar has an amazing emulation of a 140 plate. Don't sleep on this guy. It's really, really good. So here's Jill with just a plate.
What I like about you.
You see, so we've got the width, but the depth changed. I hope you can hear that through whatever you're listening through. So now a pre-delay is very important on the plate. Now spring reverbs have recently become popular again. My dear friend Justin Niebank uses them a lot, tends to mono them up. Andrew Sheps, Tom Elmhurst is gifted with springs. And springs give you a vintage kind of lo-fi sound, which works in some instances. And springs are good in mono, but they're also good for guitars where you put the guitar on one side and a mono spring on the other. Now, springs can give you a weird sense of too far back in the mix if you use too much or too long a spring. Me personally, I'm not a long pre-delay guy on springs, particularly if I'm using it on something very percussive like a piano, which I like to use them on, if I've got a piano that's a little bright and a little bit too hip. Well, hip's not the right word. If it's too bright and maybe it's giving me a sense that it's not fitting in the track, a lot of vintage elements in the track, a spring on the piano can give me that kind of feeling. Gated reverbs, non-lin reverbs, they're a little bit of a unique type of thing. When I first moved to LA, I was having trouble with a vocal, and Alan Meyerson, who's someone I have great respect and admiration for, Alan said, well, just throw a gated reverb on the vocal. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's a drum thing. And so I tried it, and a real tight gated reverb gave it almost a slap kind of feel, but it made the vocal just sit in the mix so amazingly well. So experiment with gates on vocals, not necessarily a problem vocal, but what you might try is putting a gate on the vocal, pan it in a little bit, and then put a chamber on that gate, but pan that wide. So as you get like the vocal, then a little width from the gated reverb, and then a lot more width as it decays. And in a ballad, that'll give you a pretty cool thing. So slaps, reverbs, pre-delays, the different choices we make, when and why to use them. I think that'll get you started. So, and please, guys, you know I care about you, and if you copy what I'm saying, that's cool, and I'm impressed with that because it makes me feel like you're listening to me. But I would really be happy if you just took the concepts and made them your own and took it a step further than I can. I'm at the limit of my imagination on everything I showed you. So take it somewhere and hit me up and let me know how it's coming along. Okay? All right.